Baseball on Wednesday night, Shohei Ohtani pitched 6 hitless innings and had a leadoff home run as the Dodgers defeated the Rockies 4-1. LA has won 5 in a row. The Yankees shut out the Royals 7-0. They completed a 4-game sweep, while the White Sox blew out the Twins 15-2, and rookie Munetaka Murakami hit his 20th home run of the season. The Cubs snapped out of their 10-game losing streak with a 10-4 win over the Pirates. In men's college hoops, Baylor wing Tunde Yesufu withdrew from the NBA draft and committed to St. John's. All-SEC point guard Tyler Tanner also withdrew and is returning to Vanderbilt. And at the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Hurricanes shut out the Canadiens 4-0 in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals to take a 3-1 series lead.
Live from the heart of SEC country, this is your daily fix of grit, guts, and gridiron glory. Welcome to the Deep South College Football Show.
Bowen, here he goes! Georgia retakes the lead!
Breaking down the biggest matchups, the boldest takes, and the deepest rivalries in college football on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
Intercepted! They confused him! Xavier Brown headed the other way! Touchdown Tide!
From Fayetteville to Gainesville, from the Grove to Toomer's Corner, it's SEC football.
Chambers delivers! Touchdown!
Now, here's your award-winning host, Wyatt Fulton.
Welcome into the Thursday edition here of the Deep South College Football Show on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. A lot of changes are on the horizon, not only in the world of college football, but specifically in the SEC. SEC spring meetings are wrapping up this week down in Sandestin, Florida, and we've had some fireworks down there in Miramar Beach here. Obviously, you had, the interactions with Lane Kiffin and what was going on with him after he left Ole Miss heading to LSU. Steve Sarkisian's comments about basket weaving and how it's such an easy class to take there at Ole Miss. You ever tried basket weaving? It's a pretty difficult class. I think it's pretty difficult. And then you try and do it underwater and it just becomes a whole big ordeal there as well. But even still, you had the comments from Steve Sarkisian. Pete Golding had to defend Ole Miss there. And then, by the way, we're sitting here debating the college football playoff, a 16-team versus a 24-team college football playoff field. Well, Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, spoke again today here on Thursday morning, I guess wrapping up SEC spring meetings, and had a lot to say about the college football playoff. No vote from the SEC, but he did mention a preferred playoff model. The Big Ten's already fired back with their comments, so it'll be a lot of fun here getting to discuss some of the major changes coming in college football, specifically in the SEC. We haven't even talked about yet what Kirby Smart had to say about, could the SEC break away? Could they do their own thing? Steve Sarkisian also mentioned maybe even a playoff model for the SEC to crown an SEC champion and then effectively, I guess, declare them the national champion if the SEC does decide to break away from the NCAA. All that to say, a lot of changes appear to be on the horizon here in college football. Back in the studio, Tide 100.9, we got Norris and Jackson hanging out with us. Gentlemen, how we doing today?
Doing well. The rain is back, so yay.
I'm good.
Norris, you doing all right?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Good to hear. Yeah, we got a lot of changes coming here in college football. Let's start with what Greg Sankey had to say today here. As Pete Nakos from On3 Sports reported during Greg Sankey's conversation today with the media, that he confirms the Big Ten put out a playoff model, a proposition this past winter to move to 16 teams in the college football playoff for 3 seasons before then transitioning to a 24-team playoff field. He said at the time he did not have all the appropriate information to make that decision here. And we heard earlier in the week here, right? The SEC quote unquote preferred playoff model is a 16-team format. You also look at it there. He said it again coming out of today that, hey, 16 is the preferred playoff format of the Southeastern Conference here. But then you back it up a little bit here. Brett McMurphy jumps in on this report also with On3 saying that a Big Ten source said this week the ship has sailed on 16 teams in the college football playoff. Hey, it ain't happening anymore. All right. The Big Ten wants to go to 24. And so that's kind of the plan now for the Big Ten. So Jackson, after a week down in Destin, Florida, absolutely nothing has changed on the stance of the SEC versus the Big Ten. The Big Ten wants 24, the SEC wants 16, and we're at a crossroads here when you look at the two power conferences here in college sports. Is with the knowledge now that the SEC does still want 16, although no vote was taken. Greg Sankey did say that is the preferred playoff model for the SEC. Number one, do we think Greg Sankey is speaking on behalf of the conference? Because I feel like if the SEC really did want 16 teams in the college football playoff, they would have voted. They would have said, hey, we're going to hold a vote. If this is what we want, we're going to vote on it today. But with no vote, is Greg Sankey speaking on behalf of the SEC as a whole, the majority of the SEC, or simply just this is what I think is best for the sport?
I think he is speaking on behalf of the entire conference when he says 16 teams is the preferred model. I think the reason they didn't vote is because that it would eventually lead to a 24-team model, which I don't think outside of fans, I know the majority of fans don't want a 24-team model. So, like what Mike Elko said, the self-preservation aspect of it, That's why I think they didn't vote on it.
Yeah, the self-preservation aspect that Mike Elko referenced is earlier this week, right after it came out that this was the preferred playoff model of the SEC, but they're kind of jarring back and forth with the Big Ten on 16 or 24. They asked pretty much every SEC head coach that spoke on Tuesday, hey, what's your preferred playoff model? How many teams do you want in the college football playoff? And some coaches came out and said, hey, I prefer 24, or I think Eli Drinkwitz said, we were told that if we went to 9 conference games, we would go to 16-team playoff. Well, that hasn't happened. But he said, he was a proponent of 24 this time last year. We all thought Eli Drinkwitz was kind of a nutcase for that, but clearly there was some merit behind that comment there at SEC Media Days last summer here. I think Greg Sankey speaking on behalf of the majority of the SEC. I don't think the entire conference is in lockstep here. And Mike Elko, what he said, it's self-preservation, right? These coaches, number one, the coaches are not the ones making the decisions. It's television networks, it's conference officials, it's the college football playoff as well. So effectively what, Kalen DeBoer, Mike Elko, Steve Sarkisian, Pete Golding, Kirby Smart, whatever they want, doesn't really matter at this point. They're not the guys that are going to be in that room making that decision here. However, Mike Elko said, look, I want 40 teams in a joking way, but he was like, I want 40 teams because then I can point to it and say, look, I've made the college football playoff every season that I've been at Texas A&M, or all but my first year at Texas A&M. So therefore, you can't fire me. I'm a playoff coach. I've made the playoff the last 4 years. Well, yeah, because a third of the sport is making the playoff every year at this point. But even still here, it feels like Greg Sankey is speaking on behalf of the majority of the SEC, because if you remember the report earlier in the week, also by Brett McMurphy of On3 Sports, he polled athletic directors from the Southeastern Conference, and not everybody responded or got back with him on that. But one conference athletic director anonymously wanted to keep the college football playoff at 12 teams. We kind of did an exercise, and we pretty much deduced that because we know it was only one, it's probably Georgia. Probably Georgia's athletic director wanted to keep this thing at 12 teams. 4 conference athletic directors voted to keep this, or to expand to 16 teams in the college football playoff. One athletic director said, 18 teams? No, 20 teams, excuse me. One athletic director said they wanted 20 teams in the playoff, and 8 of them voted to have an expanded playoff to 24, based on the fact that their jobs are on the line too, right? If you make a bad coaching hire as an athletic director, you could eventually be fired for making a bad coaching hire, making a bad decision. So looking at it here, it's all self-preservation from conference officials, conference coaches, conference athletic directors. All they want to do is keep their job. And that's not unheard of, right? I mean, I want to keep my job. Jackson, we all want to keep our jobs. So we talk college football because that's what pays the bills here around here. But they want to keep their job. So based off that knowledge, we can kind of deduce, okay, well, who's the one team that has made it every single year in the 12-team era? I say every single year. The last 2 years of the 12-team era, and is more than likely going to make it again this year out of the SEC. It's Georgia. So Georgia's not really worried about, my job, Kirby Smart's job, the athletic director's job. They're not really worried about that because they know they can make that 12-team field. They've made the 12-team field. They effectively have job security since we've moved this thing to 12 teams. So we can deduce that it probably was Georgia that said they wanted to keep that thing at 12. out of the 4 that voted to keep or to expand to 16, I would include Tennessee in that, right? Tennessee made the 12-team field in 2024, but missed it in 2025. So Tennessee ended the season unranked. So not like they would have made it had it been a 16-team field this past season. But even still, we can probably safely, I would say, put Tennessee in that conversation of wanting to move it to 16 teams. I would say Alabama's in that conversation, right? Alabama made the 12-team field last year, won a playoff game, but missed it the year prior. So based off that, Alabama would have been in had it been a 16-team field 2 seasons ago in 2024. So we can kind of deduce, okay, Alabama's athletic director, Tennessee's athletic director, probably kind of in lockstep there. I'd probably throw Oklahoma in there as well. Again, missed it in 2024. Finished like 6-6. So they wouldn't have made it, unless it was a 40-team field, Oklahoma wouldn't have been in. But missed it in 2024, made it in 2025 when you look at Oklahoma. So teams that have been in the college football playoff, they probably want this thing to be at 16 because they know that their team, their pedigree, their program is good enough to make a 16-team field. I throw Chris Del Conte at Texas in that boat as well. Was, a top 5 seed 2 years ago, and then last season was, I think, the second or third team out behind Notre Dame and Vanderbilt. No, excuse me. Texas was ranked ahead of Vanderbilt. So Texas, I think, was the second team out. So if we had gone to 16 or 14 or whatever, Texas would have been in the playoff field a season ago here. So I would throw Chris Del Conte in that. Everybody else wants more. Every other conference athletic director, I would say, probably wants more than that because they've either not made the college football playoff or they've been on the outside looking in. They're ranked in that 16 to 24 window there that they decide, okay, if we had expanded this thing to 24, we would have been in this year. 2 years ago, Missouri would have been in. This past season, Vanderbilt would have been in. A couple of these conference athletic directors realize my team would have been in the field had we expanded this thing to 24 last year. So now let's expand this thing to 24. But so to me, it feels like Greg Sankey is speaking on behalf of the majority of the SEC. The teams that have the pedigree, the teams that have been there before, they are the ones that want this thing to stay. I don't want to say tight. I don't want to say small because if that were the case, we'd still be talking about 4. But we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. That ship has sailed. That is done. So now it's 16 versus 24. Jackson, if both the SEC and the Big Ten dig in their heels, do we just sit at 12? Is that effectively what's going to happen here if Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey can't come to a compromise on this?
Yes, and I think that's the right move for Sankey to just dig his heels in and say, you gypped us. You told us if we went to 9, we would go to 16. Now you're moving the goalpost. All right, screw you. We're staying at 12.
Yeah. So effectively, if both Greg Sankey of the SEC and Tony Petitti of the Big Ten, if they dig in their heels on this and say, you know what, we're just, we're not compromising. Neither of us are going to compromise here. Then this thing stays at 12 and we keep rolling on the way that we have the last couple of seasons here. So I think that is the right move. And I feel like this is kind of the last card Greg Sankey's got to play here, right? He showed his hand early with, the SEC being kind of one of the most dominant conferences or being the most dominant conference in the sport, maybe faded a little bit to second place here. It's like in the movie Cars where you got Jackson Storm running ahead and Lightning McQueen's fading here. That's kind of what it feels like right now. The Big Ten is this shiny new toy. They're surging right now, and the SEC is Lightning McQueen. They've been kind of dropping back a little bit here, still trying, right? I assume we all saw Cars 3. Those with kids definitely saw Cars 3, probably more than they wanted to. But the SEC is currently on a journey to try and figure out how to get back to that level, how to chase Jackson Storm. That's what the SEC is doing. They're chasing Tony Petitti and the Big Ten. But I think Greg Sankey revealed his hand too early. Didn't do what he needed to preserve the power of his conference, and is now his last card's an ace in his pocket at this point. The last card is I have to hold out. I have to just sit here and sit on my hands and hold out. I'm going to talk. Everybody's going to want to listen to me, so I'm going to talk. I'm going to say, no, this is what we want. This is how we want to do it. This is the conversation we're having with the Big Ten. But at the end of the day, Greg Sankey, he's got that last card, and he is holding it as tight as he possibly can, because if he folds that card in, the Big Ten gets exactly what they want. And it is truly at that point on the field, the Big Ten has been the more dominant top-heavy conference, right? On the field, the Big Ten is dominated. Off the field, I think the SEC still is kind of trying to hold on to that power. If the SEC does give up that power, if Greg Sankey does fold yet again, that is the true tipping point. Who is the most powerful conference? It's not just on the field, it's off the field as well. And as of right now, we're at a tipping point. Can the SEC hold on to that offseason power? If they cannot, that is when you will finally see the domino fall, and the SEC will take a firm second place to the Big Ten. We're off and rolling here on the Deep South College Football Show. We'll come back on the other side because Pete Golding had some things to say about Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, basket weaving. Would Ole Miss have won a national championship with Lane Kiffin as the head coach and Pete Golding in the booth? And Kirby Smart, the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, mentioned, hey, could the SEC just flat out break away? Do we want to go do our own thing? We'll talk about that on the other side here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC. Hanging out here on the Deep South College Football Show YouTube page, the Tide 100.9 Facebook page, as well as my own personal X account. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a great way to spend the day on the water, Redline Power Sports rents pontoons on Lake Tuscaloosa by calling 205-737-7425.
Hi, I'm John Poole.
Hi, and I'm Krista Poole from Hudson Poole Fine Jewelers.
You're invited to our 41st anniversary sale.
This is our biggest sale of the year.
Save up to 60% on fine jewelry and gifts.
Just in time for graduation, anniversaries, and any other special occasion.
The sale is going on now through May 30th.
So shop early for the best.
Don't miss our anniversary sale at Hudson Poole Fine Jewelers.
We're downtown in Tuscaloosa on Greensboro Avenue.
And shop online at hudsonpoole.com.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
The Colonel's cooked up a new $10 bucket of the day just for you. Monday, 24 nuggets for $10. Tuesday, 8-piece fried chicken for $10. Wednesday, 10 wings for $10. Thursday, 8 tenders for $10. Friday, 24 nuggets for, ooh, you guessed it, didn't you? $10. The $10 bucket of the day deal. Every weekday. Only at KFC. It's finger licking good.
Prices and participation vary while supplies last. Not available on third-party ordering platforms. Tax extra.
For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. Clouds here through the afternoon, 86. That's pretty close to average for late May. Scattered showers and storms are expected to develop with the daytime heating, interacting with a rich Gulf moisture that continues to spread into West Alabama, settling down to 70 tonight. More of the same tomorrow. The wet pattern actually intensifies Friday through the weekend with readings in the mid-80s and a good chance of storms each day through Monday. Richard the Wedding at the Weather Channel for Town Square Media Tuscaloosa.
It's 82 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
From Tuscaloosa to the world, download the free Tide 100.9 app for all the latest on Crimson Tide sports.
Welcome back into the Deep South College Football Show. The SEC and the Big Ten are actually in lockstep on something. We've talked so much about how these two are at basically odds here when you look at the world of college sports, but it does seem like they are in lockstep on one topic here, and that's media rights. That's pooling the media rights, and that was a conversation that came out of SEC spring meetings this week here. The SEC just moments ago, as spring meetings were wrapping up down there in Miramar Beach, Florida. Shout out Ross Dellinger for pulling up this report for us here. The presidents and chancellors of the SEC issued the following statement at the conclusion of SEC spring meetings on Thursday. The SEC recognizes and appreciates the many ongoing discussions regarding potential system-wide improvements to ensure the future success of college athletics. The SEC has been intentional through years of thoughtful planning and decision-making in strategically positioning itself for future media negotiations. The conference must retain the ability to act in the best interest of its membership. As such, the SEC does not support assigning its media rights to a third party and remains firmly committed to independently conducting its media negotiations. What the hell does all that mean here? It means that it was talked about earlier how the potential idea of pooling media rights, right? So the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC and the Big 12 basically all collecting their media rights under one roof and sharing it with everybody here. Now, this is not unheard of, right? The SEC does this with their current members, right? So based off the media rights here, they divvy it up, whatever. We'll use nice small numbers so that way I can understand it here. If the SEC is making $10 million, right, per year, or no, we'll make it nice and easy here. If the SEC is making $16 million per year with its media rights here, it pools that money together and then equally distributes it among the 16 members of the SEC. So if the SEC brings in $16 million in TV revenue, in media rights for a season, each SEC school would then get $1 million. Now, the numbers are much bigger than that. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head. The data's out there if you want to look it up here, but I'm using nice, simple numbers so that way it's easy for me to explain. So if the SEC is getting $16 million per season from its media rights deals, it collects that money and then distributes it to the remaining members of the conference. Each conference member would get $1 million. Every single one of them gets it. Now, that number is inflated a little bit because each conference gets what, Jackson? A $20 million bonus for just making the college football playoff. So you think about the college football playoff teams from the SEC last season: Alabama, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Georgia. The SEC got 4 in the field last season. And Texas A&M, the SEC got 5 in the field last season. So let's do a little bit of quick math here. That's 5 institutions times $20 million. The SEC got a total of $100 million for, for its teams making the college football playoff here. You divide that number by the number of teams in the SEC, 16. Each SEC team, not just the ones that made the playoff, but each team in the SEC got $6.25 million from five conference members making the college football playoff. And you get some bonuses here and there, right? I think the SEC got another bonus for Alabama advancing to the quarterfinals, for Ole Miss advancing to the quarterfinals, for Ole Miss advancing to the semifinals as well. So I think there's probably a couple of extra bonuses in there. But for the most part, baseline, the SEC got $100 million from the college football playoff and television networks, right? ESPN, who carries these games, they got $100 million for its conference members making the college football playoff. And again, the SEC's got so much more money that they're making just off their television deal with ABC, with ESPN, right? The Big Ten's getting money from Fox, from CBS, from NBC. Notre Dame has got its NBC money because NBC is the sole provider, I believe, of Notre Dame home games here. So everybody's getting a little bit of money here and there. The idea is that you then pool all this money together, and I don't know if it would be equally distributed. Matter of fact, I think that's the reason it hasn't happened yet, is because they're talking about how it would be distributed here. The SEC and the Big Ten would demand the vast majority of the money that is being distributed from these media rights pooling deals. It, I guess, is kind of a way to continue the competitive advantage, right? Or kind of negate competitive advantage, because the SEC and the Big Ten, they've each gotten, multiple teams in the college football playoff the last couple of seasons here. So they're getting more money because their teams are better. So their teams are better. So they're making the college football playoff. Thereby, they get more money that they can distribute to their teams, which in turn makes their teams better, which in turn allows for more teams to make the college football playoff. And it's just this one big circle that is basically just feeding money into the same two conferences. That's what they're trying to stop. That's what they're trying to kind of, or maybe not stop, but slow down and negate a little bit. It would provide a little bit more competitiveness from some of these lower tier conferences. Not saying they're not good conferences, not saying there's not a Power Four, but the ACC's gotten, 3 teams in the college football playoff over the last 2 seasons. The SEC had 5 last year. The Big Ten had 4 the year prior. So therefore, the Big 12's gotten, 1 team the last 2 seasons. Arizona State in 2024, Texas Tech in 2025. That's it. That's it from those 2 conferences. So clearly, if you combine what the ACC and the Big 12 have gotten in the college football playoff over the last 2 seasons, it equates to what the SEC got in the college football playoff last year. And that's not including the fact that Georgia, Texas, Tennessee made the college football playoff 2 seasons ago. So that's 3 teams that the SEC was able to make money off of. And then Texas making the run to the semifinal, getting bonuses off that. I'm all against this. I'm on the side of the SEC here. We are the Deep South College Football Show. We talk about the SEC, trying to get a SEC light here for this wall, because that wall looks very bland right now. But so we talk a lot about the SEC. We love the SEC. We eat, sleep, live, breathe Southeastern Conference football. Hell, we use the old SEC on CBS song in our intro here, right? So we know about the SEC. That's our bread and butter. I'm aligned with the conference on this, Jackson. I think the pooling of the media rights is a very, very bad move for the Big Ten and the SEC, because they are the 2 premier conferences. They should be the 2 premier conferences. You've got damn near every blue blood in the sport sits in these 2 conferences here. So why are you going to then take my money out of my pocket and we're going to go give this to SMU? We're going to go give this to Houston. 2 teams that, again, no disrespect to them, but 2 teams that weren't even power conference members 3 seasons ago, 4 seasons ago. Jackson, I'm all in with the SEC on this. What are your thoughts?
No, I am as well. And it's not just about the money aspect. I mean, that's super important as well. But if this comes to fruition, and what you also have to take into account is that there will be stipulations in these contracts to where some of these top SEC games, some of these rivalry games within the SEC won't be televised on a major network, and it'll be a Big 12 game that nobody cares about. It'll be an ACC game that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
And so that's the real stickler here, because what does that do for your conference when you have more eyes? Helps recruiting, helps, get that visibility, and that's what is really, what they care about.
Yeah, you don't think recruits are sitting here watching, the 3 primetime Alabama-Georgia matchups we've gotten over the last 2 seasons here? You don't think they're watching Georgia and Texas? You don't think they're watching the Red River Shootout between Texas and Oklahoma? You don't think Jackson, would you rather watch the Red River Shootout, or would you rather watch SMU and Pitt?
Give me the Red River. I mean, Utah and BYU would love to play their game, Holy War.
The Holy War at 6:30 on ABC, I'm not against it.
No, but they would love to be able to play that game there instead of at that time frame instead of 9:30 on Fox. Let's be real. That's what they're really trying to do. And so that's my opinion.
Yeah, and that is what it seems to be with what they're trying to do. But and ABC and ESPN and Disney, it's all parent company by Disney. So if I refer to it as ABC or ESPN or Disney, I'm talking about the same entity here. These companies, ABC and Disney, what they have done is they've got a triple header of SEC games. And we've seen it with some of the schedule announcements that are coming out here, right? Week 3, really the start of conference play for a lot of different teams here, but except, ironically, Alabama, who starts in week 2. 11 a.m. is going to be Georgia at Arkansas. SEC game hosted by an SEC team. 2:30 is going to be Alabama and Florida State, hosted by an SEC team. Media rights are controlled by ABC. 6:30 is going to be Ole Miss and LSU. And we've now seen that over the length of this ABC, Disney, ESPN, and SEC media rights deal. Hey, you're getting that triple header every single Saturday. It could be Arkansas and Kentucky. And guess what? 11 a.m. on ABC. That's where that game is going. And then at night, Bama, Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, right? That's where you're getting these SEC games. And then the rest of the SEC games are going out on, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, SEC Network Plus. That's where a lot of these games start to populate if they're not in that triple header format there. But I mean, Jackson, we cover Alabama in a written component at Tide 100.9. We also talk a lot about Georgia because they're, the new Alabama, if some people want to call them that. But right now they're the cream of the crop of the SEC. It's Bama, it's Georgia, it's Texas. Outside of the one game that is obligated to be played on SEC Network Plus, cupcake game, it's Georgia Austin P, it's Georgia Marshall, it's Alabama Eastern Illinois, it's Alabama and Mercer, it's Texas and whatever, Sam Houston State, Texas and UTSA. Like those games are getting played on SEC Network Plus. But outside of that, Jackson, I don't think we've had a week yet where you don't have one or multiples of Alabama, Georgia, and Texas on that ABC triple header. You normally are getting those three teams on that triple header here.
And they usually sprinkle in LSU.
LSU is another one that they'll sprinkle in here. Well, I mean, when you start including four teams and they start to play each other a good bit, right? I mean, Bama plays LSU every single season. After this year, that's not true. But as of right now, they're playing LSU every single season. Georgia and Texas have played over the last 2 seasons 3 times. Bama, Georgia have played over the last 2 seasons 3 times. Bama, Oklahoma have played a bunch. Those 3 Bama, Oklahoma games that we've gotten, 6:30 on ABC, 2:30 on ABC, and whatever the Friday night ABC college football playoff game was, whatever time that was. I think it was like 7 o'clock or something like that. So a little bit of a time shift, but the TV network, they've been on ABC. Georgia, Texas, LSU, Alabama, they're going to play on ABC damn near every single week, especially once you get into conference play. And you look later on in the season, you look on this season too, Alabama's playing on ABC twice already. They're playing at 2:30 against Kentucky in week 2. They're playing at 2:30 against Florida State in week 3. You don't think Alabama, South Carolina is going to be on ABC as well? I understand we're not expecting South Carolina to be a conference contender this season, but with the way those 2 games have gone the last 2 seasons, the fact that Alabama probably should be undefeated going into that game, the fact that South Carolina probably should be undefeated going into that game, you don't think they're going to throw that game on ABC? I wouldn't be shocked if that's another 2:30 kick. Jackson, we may start with an 11 a.m. and then 3 or 4 straight 2:30 kicks.
And then you go into the Georgia game, which will be a 6:30 kick.
I was going to say, you got to go to Mississippi State before you go to Georgia, or before you host Georgia, excuse me. But again, we haven't had the Battle of Highway 82 in 3 years.
Right. But also, like, these triple header games on ABC, what does that have to do for Fox's programming as well? That's why they have the big noon game. Because 6:30, 2:30, all eyes are on those top SEC matchups in primetime. So what does Fox have to do to compete with that? They have to throw Ohio State, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas at noon at an 11 a.m. kickoff.
And what's so fun about the SEC is the fact that, number one, the SEC is scheduling marquee games. This is one thing I will say about Greg Sankey and the SEC here. They've done such a good job of marketing their teams as good, right? They've done a real, and it's not like, we know the talent composite. I spout that stat every chance I get pretty much. We know the SEC is very, very talented. It's a very talented conference. So therefore, your 2:30 game probably could have been a 6:30 game on like regular ESPN or something like that. Like Auburn and Florida this season in week 3. Auburn and Florida, 2 new head coaches. We know it's going to be a night game. So now we're trying to determine television network. If LSU and Ole Miss aren't playing in week 3, I have no doubt in my mind, Auburn and Florida are the 6:30 game on ABC.
Right. And I mean, LSU, Florida, that's always a huge game.
That's a big rivalry game.
Texas going to Tennessee this year. Like, that's a huge game. Battle for real UT. Like,
yeah.
And it's easy to market these games, not just because most of these teams are quality, programs, but also the environment and the atmosphere within these stadiums and at these schools is just so vastly different and so much of a higher quality environment to play in than anything else in the country. And I don't think that's biased to say that. Like Ohio State, okay, cool environment in the shoe, but it's not near like the tradition and the
It's
pageantry
not
that you
Death
have in
Valley.
the SEC. No,
It's not Neyland Stadium.
no. And I would say Penn State is probably the only one in that
Yeah.
conference that has a similar, atmosphere and tradition to it.
I've heard really good things about Autzen Stadium for Oregon, but they're, we still view them as a half Pac-12 team at this point, not fully transitioned into the Big Ten yet. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, Jackson, I've not been to the Big Ten stadiums, so I'm, my only experience is what the SEC provides and a handful of neutral sites, i.e., the Rose Bowl and whatever they're playing in Tampa at that point, because those are the only two neutral sites I've been to. The SEC championship as well, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, great environment. But I'm sidebarring here. I've been to Death Valley. I've been to Neyland Stadium. I've been to Jordan-Hare. I've been all over this conference at this point over the last 2 years, covering the University of Alabama. So I'm seeing what everybody's peak is, what the best of the best feels like, because it's Alabama rolling into town. Jackson, I couldn't hear myself in Death Valley. I had literal chills in Death Valley from what that environment brought. Neyland Stadium. I mean, I show everybody the video when I get a chance to. Listening to Rocky Top in Neyland Stadium as they are getting ready to defeat Alabama for the second time in 4 years, I couldn't hear myself think. I'm standing right next to another reporter, as a national reporter, somebody who has seen this, who has seen the country. And he turns to me and he goes, "Oh my word, dude. What is this? What is this environment? What is this environment? What is this crowd?" So somebody who has seen the national stage is saying that about Neyland Stadium in Tennessee. By the way, in a year that Tennessee was not that good. Yes, they beat Alabama, but we know Alabama wasn't all that in a bag of chips in 2024. He's saying that about that. I can't imagine what it would look like, what it looked like in 2022 when Tennessee did finally beat Alabama for the first time in 17 years. What LSU looks like when Death Valley's rocking and LSU is, 10-0, 11-0.
Right. And you have an ex Pac-12 coach from UW here, two of them, a lot of them on this staff here at Alabama, who said this past season when Tennessee came into town and they played Dixieland Delight twice.
That was so much fun.
After the game, he was like, that's one of the best environments I've ever been a part of. And he was also coaching at Indiana as well.
Coached at Indiana, so he's seen the Big Ten. Coached at Washington in the Pac-12, so he got to see the Coliseum. He got to see Autzen Stadium. They walked into Oregon and beat Oregon. They beat Oregon 3 times in Kalen DeBoer's tenure there. So he's clearly seen what these environments look like. And the fact that he has said, hey, the SEC is a different animal. It was a valid point of concern that we had for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer when he first got to the conference, right? Jackson, I remember, I talked about it. Ryan Fowler talked about it. Gary Harris did.
How are you going to handle going into Jordan-Hare?
These are some wild environments, man. The things that they do in these stadiums to get these people excited, it's insane. It's 100,000 strong.
I was at the Georgia Alabama game in Sanford. I've been to Alabama Iron Bowls in Jordan-Hare. I've been to Death Valley when Alabama plays there. Sanford Stadium, that was way louder than either of those two stadiums were when Alabama was there.
But to be fair, you had a rough experience in Baton Rouge, and that stadium was cleared out by the fourth quarter in that game. But we won't dive into that. All right, we ran way too long here. So Jackson, here's what we're going to do. We're going to combine here. Going to be a little bit longer of an ad break here, but then we'll come back and we'll wrap up the show. Get ready for the game with Ryan Fowler. I want to talk about this Kirby Smart thing where he said, hey, the SEC may just need to break off. We may need to just go make our own rules, which I find very, very ironic because it always seems like everybody's trying to make rules. Everybody's trying to figure out, all right, what's the rule that everybody's going to follow? But if we look at history, nobody's going to follow the rules. Not one soul. They are sitting here championing, hey, we need rules. in front of microphones and in front of the media, we need rules. And then in backdoor conversations, in back rooms, when the microphone is off, they're saying, all right, how can we break these rules? How can we get around? Where's the loophole that will give us a competitive advantage? So we'll talk about it here on the other side and get you ready for the game with Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
Too many families face a widening gap between what they can afford and what they need to thrive. More than half of families in the U.S. today are one paycheck away from financial crisis. At Good 360, we deliver hope when families need it most, providing essentials like clothing, hygiene items, and household goods. Put help within reach. Learn more at good360.org.
You love your land, and you have plans for it. During Kubota's Orange Days, you'll love the great deals on their versatile lineup, helping you turn dreams into reality. Visit your Kubota dealer, Tuscaloosa Tractor, today for the best deals of the year. Now through June 30th, 0% financing available, or save up to $5,500 off select compact tractors. Sell in soon. Stop by Tuscaloosa Tractor at 3921 Skyland Boulevard East or go to Kubota.com.
After a wreck, the clock starts immediately. The insurance company is already working, protecting themselves, gathering statements, and looking for a reason to deny your claim. One wrong move, one missed deadline, one thing said too soon, and your case can be damaged or lost forever. You don't need to figure this out alone. You need protection. You need guidance, and you need it now. Call Ms. Reno, 900-9000. That's 900-9000 for a free consultation. No fees unless we win. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than that of other lawyers.
Clint Black fans, get ready. Clint Black back on the Blacktop Tour. Friday, July 3rd, Pearl River Resort Silver Star Convention Center.
Back here with my thumb out in the wind.
On sale now at PearlRiverResort.com.
You're a better man, and everything's right with the summer coming.
Don't miss Clint Black Live. What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
For more info on marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa, call 205-345-7200 or click on Advertise with Us on our website.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's deputies reportedly shot 2 people, killing 1 and wounding another, when they tried to serve a warrant in an area near Vance this morning. The Violent Crimes Unit is expected to release more details on the officer-involved shooting soon. And the project to expand vehicle and pedestrian access under the wooden railroad trestle in downtown Tuscaloosa will begin next week and last for at least 2 years. For the details on these stories and more free coverage of local news, get connected at TuscaloosaThread.com.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Thursday edition of The Game, we'll talk to Rodney Orr, TiderInsider.com, Blake Toppmeyer, as we set the stage for another busy weekend of Alabama Crimson Tide athletics on The Game, starting at 2 p.m. with Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
The longest-running sports talk show in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. And streaming worldwide on the free Tide app.
Fincher and Osment Jewelers, a Tuscaloosa original since 1904. A shop that has stood the test of time with jewelry made to stand the test of time. FincherandOsment.com.
Catch hourly local news updates from the Tuscaloosa thread, powered by Tuscaloosa Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Lease a new 2026 Chrysler Pacifica Select for $421 a month for 42 months, $39.99 due at signing.
The Colonel's cooked up a new $10 bucket of the day just for you. Monday, 24 nuggets for $10. Tuesday, 8-piece fried chicken for $10. Wednesday, 10 wings for $10. Thursday, 8 tenders for $10. Friday, 24 nuggets for, ooh, you guessed it, didn't you? $10. The $10 bucket of the day deal. Every weekday, only at KFC. It's finger licking good.
Prices and participation vary while supplies last. Not available on third-party ordering platforms. Tax extra.
Sound familiar? At Mattress Firm, we understand there are many problems that can keep you up at night, like snoring, aches and pains, or sleeping hot. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a mattress that can help. And now at Mattress Firm, upgrade to a Tempur-Pedic and learn how you can get 3% back plus an instant gift. For the great sleep you deserve, visit Mattress Firm. We make sleep easy. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
After a wreck, everything you do matters. Say the wrong thing, your claim is denied. Miss a step, evidence disappears, and the insurance company closes their file. That's why you need protection now. You need someone who knows the process and protects your rights from the start. Call Ms. Reno. Dial 900-9000. That's 900-9000 for a free consultation, no fees unless we win. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be formed is greater than that of other lawyers.
Hey, man, thanks for coming so fast. I couldn't get anyone else to pick up.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. I'm not complaining, though. Business is way up lately.
Wow, good for you. I've been trying to grow my accounting practice, but it's been pretty slow.
Yeah, I was in the same boat last year. What really helped me was checking out this site, mylocalcustomers.com.
Never heard of it.
Well, most people haven't. It gives you a look at how many people in town are searching for what you do, and it also provides a plan to help them actually find you.
Like online?
Exactly. It's eye-opening, and it only takes a couple minutes to get started.
Huh. Well, you fixed my sink. Maybe you just fixed my business, too.
Want to know how many people in your area are searching for your type of business? Start with a local customer analysis at mylocalcustomers.com. It's quick, it's easy, and it's free. Go to mylocalcustomers.com today.
That's mylocalcustomers.com. Mylocalcustomers.com.
Did you miss any episode on Tide 100.9? Don't worry. All of our shows can be found on Spotify and Apple Music and on demand on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Deep South College Football Show. Got about 8 or 9 minutes or so here. If you want to jump back in on the program here, 205-342-9904 is the number for the phone lines here on Tide 100.9 here. Jackson Kirby Smart mentioned it. Steve Sarkisian also was asked about it here, but the SEC is, I don't know if they're beginning to think about it, but the idea got floated about the SEC potentially breaking away and doing its own thing, basically breaking out of the NCAA, following its own set of rules, and crowning its own champion, basically. On the field, I don't think anything would change outside of maybe, you're probably playing all SEC opponents at that point because nobody else is going to schedule you because you're not a part of the NCAA at that point. But the idea was basically floated about the SEC breaking away and quote-unquote doing its own thing. Jackson, how in the world would this even happen?
I think it would actually work pretty well.
Okay.
Notre Dame, they do their own thing, don't they?
But they are part of the NCAA.
This is true, but they're not an affiliate of any other conference. I think the SEC, if they just say, here's our umbrella of rules, we're going to play by these. If you want to schedule us and play us still, you have to abide by these rules. And I think if they do that, I think that they could get some success with that and have other conferences follow suit. Because let's be real, the Big 12, the ACC, and the Big 10, they can't function without the SEC.
Right.
You can say what you want. They can all schedule each other, but everybody knows you can't crown a national championship for a team if you don't play somebody from the SEC that's at the top of that this conference. Like, you can't say you're national champion without playing the best region of football in the
Right.
entire country. That's just my opinion. And I do think the SEC can do it on their own. Now, obviously, they used to do it before, the NCAA was a big thing and everybody came together. Like, it just used to be the SEC and they had their conference championship, and it was that. Same with the Big Ten when they were still doing their thing. That's what I think. I think the way to do it is like I started with, where we're breaking away. These are the rules. This is the umbrella we're following. If you want to schedule us, you can, but you have to also abide by those rules. And I think that other teams will see the value in playing the SEC.
Does this open the door for super conferences? Because you look at that's been the big topic of conversation is it's the Big Ten, it's the SEC, 1A, 1B. I tend to think the Big Ten's probably taken that top spot. So 1 and 2. And then it's everybody else. Nobody holds a candle to what the SEC and the Big Ten are running right now. Does this open the door if the SEC does leave and break its kind of agreement with the NCAA? Does it open the door for super conferences with the Big Ten? I.e., would the Big Ten try to follow suit and say, look, we're gonna do the same thing. These are our rules. We're gonna abide by these rules. If you want to schedule Ohio State, if you want to schedule Michigan, Oregon, Penn State, whoever in the Big Ten, if you want to go play Purdue and let that be, get a cupcake non-conference opponent for your conference here, you got to abide by our rules. And therefore, the SEC and the Big Ten then come under effectively the same umbrella at that point.
Yes, but I think it would probably, if the SEC does it first, I think there's more likelihood that the SEC just conglomerates with the ACC, because regionality and those teams in that conference, they're not on the level of the Big Ten. And I'm not saying that the SEC is going to shy away from that in the competitive nature of the Big Ten. I just think that if Greg Sankey really wants to stick a boot up to them because of their shenanigans and them feeling like, oh, we run this stuff now because we have 3 in a row, you guys suck, we gypped you into going to 9 conference games and then move the goalposts for you. Okay, fine. You want to go do that? You want to play 2014 playoff? The Big Ten, go do that with the Big 12. We'll try to get our money's worth and do the same thing under our umbrella and follow rules and have an actual framework that everybody can abide by and agree with. And I think the ACC would go along with that, because the ACC, I think, has their problems with the Big Ten as well.
Yeah, I think the ACC's got some issues with the Big Ten in addition to that. But there's one more thing I want to ask here, because as we've very clearly understood now at this point in the offseason, the college football playoff is not controlled by the NCAA. It's its own entity. They are not controlled by the NCAA. If the SEC does do this, depart from the NCAA, we could theoretically still see the SEC in the college football playoff.
Correct.
So, I'm trying to wrap my mind around how this would even work, right? So the SEC, okay, we're doing our own thing here. NCAA, you guys suck. You guys haven't done anything to regulate. Nothing good has come from the NCAA in quite some time. So screw you guys. We're going over here. We're going to take our ball and we're going to go over here. You play a full season. I mean, would the SEC still be, ranked? Would they still be a part of the rankings in the AP poll at that point?
I mean, the AP poll's not.
It's not an NCAA affiliate,
right? And you look back at previous national championships from the 20s and whatever, when there was no playoff, or
right,
it was just the best record at the end of the year. And those teams were ranked, so I do think they would be ranked.
So then would anything really change if the SEC moved out? If the SEC said, screw you guys, we're going over here, our ball, we're going to go play with it over here. Would anything even change?
No, not really. It would just be the rules and a framework. Would it hurt recruiting in the transfer portal?
Oh, 100%.
Right, because then you're having stipulations in there that say if you're transferring out, you can't transfer interconference.
Right.
If you do, you'll have to sit out a year at your new location. then that would just push the talent, away. But if you don't do that, I don't know how they would handle that, but
Well, that used to be the old rule. If you transferred within conference, you had to sit. First off, if you transferred at all, you had to sit for a year. Then the rule changed. If you transfer within conference, you got to sit for a year. And then Georgia and Alabama got into kind of a shooting match over it, and the transfer portal's become what it's become here. So I would assume the SEC, yes, there would be some rules, there would be some stipulations and things like that, but all in all, AP poll's not controlled, so the SEC would still be ranked in the AP poll to start the season. The college football playoff poll and the playoff committee itself is not governed by the NCAA, so the SEC would still be involved in the college football playoff. Now I'm starting to wonder, why don't we do this? Like, what's the thing that's keeping this from happening here? Because if the SEC breaks their agreement, we've mentioned it, we think other conferences would break their agreement with the NCAA. You come under one governing umbrella if you want to, and now I feel like the NCAA is one of the biggest issues in college sports.
Right. And, you can then have that framework and then protect your other sports, which is also what Kirby mentioned. Like, if we don't get this NIL and spending and financial issues down, we're going to cut Olympic sports and all these other things, which are just as important to universities as the football program, maybe not financially, but definitely in other areas. And so I think it would lead to, if the SEC does secede, they would, I think they would go lockstep with the ACC. I think that should be Sankey's first call. Hey, come over here. You create the SCCC, which is the Southeastern Coastal Conference, and then you conglomerate there. You have and then the Big Ten will do it with the Big 12, and then you have the NFC and AFC, and then you have the college football playoffs, and you can just do it there.
The biggest takeaway that I think from all this is Kirby Smart's the one person in that room everybody listens to. You can hate him, you can love him, you can beat him, you can lose to him. Kirby Smart's the one individual in that room they're listening to.
Right, 100%. And I don't think. Do I think that Kirby Smart is serious about the SEC feeling like they could break away if necessary? Yes. Do I think that he's saying that that's exactly what they should do? No. I think he's saying that in terms of
it's an option, basically.
Right. We're not afraid to do it. If you guys don't come to the table and play ball, Big Ten, good luck.
Yeah. Good luck at that point. That'll do it for us today on the radio side. Coming up on Tide 100.9 at 12:30 a.m. WTBC, the game with Ryan Fowler. Ryan Fowler will take you home from 2 to 6 p.m. There on Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. That'll do it for us today here on the stream as well. Trying to get the home studio set up, so hopefully we can get that rocking and rolling. Big thanks to Jackson and Norris for hanging out with us there in the Tide 100.9 studio here. We'll be back tomorrow for the Free For All Friday edition of the Deep South College Football Show. A little bit of a programming note here. Coming up in a couple of weeks, we are going to restart the Sunday live streams here as well. I know we had a lot of fun doing those live streams on Sunday evenings here, and then we'll start diving into our previews. So I think what we'll try to do is we'll try to allocate 30 minutes to each SEC team in the month of June here, and we're going to deep dive every single thing we can find about that team, about their projection this upcoming season, dive into the schedule, really dive into the meat and potatoes of the SEC and the 16 conference members here, because college football is just around the corner. We are 100 days away from the SEC getting things kicked. Actually, no. I think we're 99 days away from the SEC getting things kicked off here. So appreciate everybody who tuned into the stream. Leave a like, leave a comment. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. It doesn't sign you up for any nasty emails or anything like that, annoying emails, nothing like that. All it does is it just helps me out a ton. So we greatly appreciate it. We will see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central Time here on the Deep South College Football Show.